an imbecile or an insane person, exempting circumstances. The Revised Penal Code, Part 2. When defense of insanity is not credible. 1. Appellant himself testified that he was acting very sanely that Monday morning, as shown by the fact that he went to the canteen in a jovial mood singing, whistling, and tossing a coin in his hand. He saw persons inside the canteen. He noticed the arrival of Lira, who banged his folders on the table, elbowed him, and said in a loud voice, "An oka." He saw Lira put his right hand inside his pocket and with the other hand push the chair towards him. He became confused, because he remembered that Lira threatened to kill him if he would see him again. At this point he lost his senses and regained it when he heard the voice of Mrs. Tan saying, "Loreto, don't do that." And then he found out that he had wounded Lira. If Appellant was able to recall all those incidents, we cannot understand why his memory stood still at that very crucial moment when he stabbed Lira to return at the snap of the finger, as it were, after he accomplished the act of stabbing his victim. The defense of insanity is incredible. People vs. Renegado. 2. The accused knew that his wife was dead, because he was informed of her death. He said that his wife quarreled with him. She was irritable. He remembered that the week before the incident he got wet while plowing. He fell asleep without changing his clothes. He immediately surrendered after the incident. He remembered that he rode on a tricycle. During his confinement in jail he mopped the floor and cooked food for his fellow prisoners. Sometimes, he worked in the town plaza or was sent and escorted to buy food in the market. He is not insane. People vs. Amble. 3. Government psychiatric doctors who had closely observed the accused for a month and a half found him in good contact with his environment and that he did not manifest any odd behavior, for in fact, he could relate the circumstances that led to his confinement. He exhibited remorse for killing the victim, his wife, and he voluntarily surrendered to the police headquarters where he executed a statement confessing his misdeed. He was coherent and intelligent. Before the killing, he was working for living through fishing 3 times a week and he himself fixed the prices for his catch. The presumption of sanity has not been overcome. People vs. Miguelano. 4. The accused was afflicted with schizophrenic reaction, but knew what he was doing. He had psychosis, a slight destruction of the ego. In spite of his schizophrenic reaction, his symptoms were not socially incapacitating and he could adjust to his environment. He could distinguish between right and wrong. He had no delusions and he was not mentally deficient. The accused was not legally insane when he killed the hapless and helpless victim. People vs. Pano. 5. The mental illness of the accused was described as organic mental disorder with psychosis, but the doctor said that a person suffering from insanity may know that what he is doing is wrong. He also observed that the mental illness of the accused came on and off. When interviewed upon his admission to the mental institution, he recalled having taken 120 cc of cough syrup and consumed about 3 sticks of marijuana before the commission of the crime. An admission confirming his prior extrajudicial confession. The presence of his reasoning faculties, which enabled him to exercise sound judgment and satisfactorily articulate the aforesaid matters, sufficiently discounts any intimation of insanity of the accused when he committed the dastardly felonies. People vs. Aquino. Dementia precox is covered by the term insanity. Thus, when a person is suffering from a form of psychosis, a type of dementia precox, homicidal attack is common, because of delusions that he is being interfered with sexually, or that his property is being taken. During the period of excitement, such person has no control whatever of his acts. People versus Benoit, Supra. The unlawful acts of the accused may be due to his mental disease or a mental defect, producing an irresistible impulse, as when the accused has been deprived or has lost the power of his will which would enable him to prevent himself from doing the act. In the Benoit case, Supra, an irresistible homicidal impulse was considered embraced in the term insanity. Schizophrenia, formerly called dementia praecox. Medical books describe schizophrenia as a chronic mental disorder characterized by inability to distinguish between fantasy and reality and often accompanied by hallucinations and delusions. Formerly called dementia praecox, it is the most common form of psychosis. People versus Aldemida. Symptomatically, schizophrenic reactions are recognizable through odd and bizarre behavior apparent in aloofness or periods of impulsive destructiveness and immature and exaggerated emotionality. Often ambivalently directed. The interpersonal perceptions are distorted in the more serious states by delusions and hallucinations. In the most disorganized form of schizophrenic living, withdrawal into a fantasy life takes place and is associated with serious thought disorder and profound habit deterioration in which the usual social customs are disregarded. During the initial stage, the common early symptom is aloofness, a withdrawal behind barriers of loneliness, hopelessness, hatred and fear. Frequently, the patient would seem preoccupied and dreamy and may appear far away. He does not empathize with the feelings of others and manifests little concern about the realities of life situations. The schizophrenic suffers from a feeling of rejection and an intolerable lack of self-respect. He withdraws from emotional involvement with other people to protect himself from painful relationships. There is shallowness of affect, a paucity of emotional responsiveness and a loss of spontaneity. Frequently, he becomes neglectful of personal care and cleanliness. A variety of subjective experiences associated with or influenced by mounting anxiety and fears precede the earliest behavioral changes and oddities. He becomes aware of increasing tension and confusion and becomes distracted in conversation manifested by his inability to maintain a train of thought in his conversations. Outwardly, this will be noticed as blocks or breaks in conversations. The schizophrenic may not speak or respond appropriately to his companions. He may look fixedly away, or he may appear to stare, as he does not regularly blink his eyes in his attempt to hold his attention. People versus Matarang. Kleptomania. If the accused appears to have been suffering from kleptomania when he committed the crime of theft, how shall we regard his abnormal, persistent impulse or tendency to steal? Is it an exempting circumstance or only a mitigating circumstance? The courts in the United States have conflicting opinions. Some believe that it is an exempting circumstance. Others believe that it is only a mitigating circumstance. In this jurisdiction, the question has not been brought before the court for its determination. The case of a person suffering from kleptomania must be investigated by competent alienist or psychiatrist to determine whether the impulse to steal is irresistible or not. If the unlawful acts of the accused is due to his mental disease or a mental defect, producing an irresistible impulse, as when the accused has been deprived or has lost the power of his will which would enable him to prevent himself from doing the act, the irresistible impulse, even to take another's property, should be considered as covered by the term insanity. In the case of People versus Benoit, an irresistible